if we looked at everything together. Okay, so the case for cognitive development, which I've just stated, has been made in our series that we just finished. So the Think Smart series, and the whole first session, Is Dyslexia a Lifelong Sentence, was all focused on the case for cognitive development and all the research that underlies it, and all the evidence that it does improve academic outcomes and all these different skills that underlie dyslexia and really can remediate the symptoms of dyslexia. So I'm not going to go into that now. That was part of our previous one. I'm going to keep today short because I know it's almost holiday. But basically we're today looking at taking all that research as a given, taking what the researchers are saying, that dyslexia is about more than phonology. Phonology is all about cognitive skills that impact on phonology. So if we can look at that multifactorial intervention, surely we can have reading success for more of the learners than just some. Okay. So let's look a little bit about why cognitive development is not high on the priority list for the Delphi study and for researchers overall. Often cognitive development is seen as the black sheep in education. There's quite a few reasons for that, so let's look at some of them. One of them, or quite a few of them, fall under the system limitation. Now, system being the educational system, the policymakers, the teachers at schools. So it's not about whether cognitive development works or not, it's just whether it's implementable in schools. Okay. So first, there's a preference for symptom-based. We do like to know that things are always curriculum relevant, so we can test it with a test and see the differences. So phonics, for example, numeracy, catch-up programs, you can do a test and you can see the progress and you can see how it works. And it works on the immediate problem. So they struggle with math, it works on math. They struggle with phonics, so it works on phonics. So it's very direct related to what you see. Whereas cognitive development is more vague. Working memory is a vague concept. Attention, processing speed. For most of us, it's a vague concept. So it strengthens the root skills rather than my direct problem that I'm seeing in the classroom. And then because the symptoms are more visible and measurable, like I said, cognition kind of looks less direct, so it's sometimes ignored. Okay. Then funding and policy bias. So you want clear assessments, metrics, and we've made progress in 10% progress, 20% progress, 30% progress. So you want to be able to have those direct progress measures in the system, whereas cognitive development doesn't always perfectly align. You can't always say, well, I've now done this 10 hours of cognitive development and therefore my reading has improved by so much, or my academic marks have improved by so much. It's not always that quantifiable. Then in terms of remediation versus compensation, we like quick fixes. So remediation approaches that builds underlying skills, like cognitive development, it takes time. The brain is not a quick fix. We all know if you want to diet, if you want to exercise, to change your body shape, it's hard work and it takes months and months and months of commitment, regular exercise and a very positive mindset, and then you're going to start seeing results gradually over time. Now, in education, you want the child to be ready the next day. You don't want to have to wait a year or 2 years or sometimes even 3 years to see those results. So it's much easier to go for compensation. So if we can have assistive technology, if we can have accommodation and just kind of do a lot of extras just to kind of try and see if we can fill the gaps as quickly as we can just for this test coming up. So if we can just do the skills for the next test, then we can do the test and then we can breathe again and let's just then cram for the next test. Then it's quick fixes. So that's much preferred than the long journey that will reach long-term results. So the schools therefore often lead towards compensation. So they say that your remediation potential is limited. Compensation gives immediate results, and a child can do well if someone reads for them or writes for them, and all they need to know is to show what they understand instead of what they can do. Okay, so in terms of difficulty in teacher training and implementation, like we talked about, it's a bit of a vague concept. It's difficult to understand. It's not easy. I've tried over the last few months. I hope you stuck with me. And we tried to demystify a lot of those cognitive skills, and we even looked at a lot of strategies of how you can develop them in the classroom. But it's not covered in your teacher training. Which means that practitioners don't necessarily think about incorporating cognitive skills into their classrooms. So unless someone actually comes and shows them and tells them and explains what it means and gives them strategies, you're not going to do it. You're going to just focus on the academics. And then in terms of time as well, how do I fit it into my class time? How do I fit it into my schedule? It can be very daunting. And in the end, even if you have good intentions, you might end up not doing it. Okay, so that's the system. Now, the other side is, let's look at the research. Now, in this cognitive wave where neuroplasticity became kind of a buzzword, and all these apps and games came out that said, I'm going to develop your memory, develop your logical thinking skills by doing this game. And a lot of these commercial games came on the market. They made all these claims about how it's going to improve all your cognitive skills, but they had no evidence showing that it actually does that. So that kind of gave a disreputation to cognitive skills. It was kind of seen as just playing and not really having any educational value. Okay. And this is a shame, because they were programs that are high quality and evidence-based and structured and everything it needs to be, but these kind of apps overrode all of those and tainted all with the same brush. And then in terms of research, there was this kind of motivation to say that it does not work. So what happened is that there were a number of studies that kind of went out to disprove cognitive development and just to brand it as over-promising and under-delivering. And that was based very much on these kind of commercial and fringe programs that were used for one of the studies at least. And that's the Bango Theory study, which was launched by the BBC in England in 2010. And they did a meta-analysis. We will talk about that study in a minute. And then there was a meta-analysis by Kearns and Fuchs in 2013, where they looked at lots of different studies which they considered cognitive programs or brain training, and then they concluded that the results did not support the use of cognitive focused instruction. And so, in other words, as quickly as it developed, the whole idea of cognitive brain training and brain training, it was just dismissed and locked back into the cupboard and said, it doesn't work. Let's not look at it again. And that's a real shame. So what happened is that even your evidence-based approaches got charged with the same brush, and we went back to what we know, back to what is safe, which is just your literacy intervention and academic remediation. So let's look at the Bango Theory study. They had 11,000 adults aged 18 to 60. Now note, adults, most of the children that struggle with dyslexia and that are going through remediation are children. So doing an adult study is already not really relating to what it's really about. Then they did various online tasks, so your kind of commercial apps, your games. They did it 10 minutes a day, 3 times a week. So you're looking at 30 minutes a week, over 6 weeks. So we're looking at 3 hours in total. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And then the activities was group 1, they were doing reasoning and planning and problem solving. Group 2, they were doing short-term memory, attention, visual spatial skills, and some basic maths, kind of more those gamey things. And group 3 just did some online searches for answers to trivia questions. Okay. And what they found is that actually the participants in group 1 and 2 did improve with the tasks they practiced. Okay, so even though they just did 3 hours over 6 weeks, they did improve. But they couldn't transfer that to other tasks. And then improvements only lasted for a short period. So what they said is it doesn't work. Okay. So let's just have a look at it. So with 1, very short duration. Okay, lacks intensity. Think about 30 minutes a week. Can change be realistically expected? unstructured. So the participants could choose their own activities. So they weren't told what to do. They could go from all these different games and they could choose which ones they wanted to play. And one day they could play the one and another day they could play the other one. There was no rules around it. Okay, so think about that as well. If you're doing a study with very much arbitrary activities, can you expect to get its real outcome? Then they were focused only on cognitive skills, which means that they didn't do reading or spelling or comprehension tasks to see if it makes a difference there. Is they only did cognitive skills and they did only the single cognitive focus. So either reasoning or memory. They didn't do a range of cognitive skills. And they did online only. So it was all online, all computerized. So my question is, if you did any intervention, whether it be reading, spelling, math, comprehension, or health focused, you want to get fit or you want to lose weight, and you did it within these perimeters. So 3 times a week for only a very short period of time. Do what you want. So I'm going to do today, I'm going to jog for 10 minutes, and maybe 2-3 days later I'm going to push some weights. Or are you going to expect to see real, sustainable change within these perimeters in any field? Okay, that's just a question. So let's go and look at the meta-analysis. Oh, what have I done? Oh, sorry guys, if here's a problem. I'm going to just quickly remove that. I don't know, oops, undo. Don't know what's happened there. Let's quickly delete that and see if it makes a difference. Someone has changed my animations for me. Okay, I'm going to just share it quickly again. So what we want to do is we want to go and compare the 2010 study to an evidence-based program. I'm going to use Edublox because unfortunately we're kind of the only one that I know of. So I'm going to compare with Edublox. I just want you to see the difference. So whereas the 2010 study has a short duration, an Edublox lesson would be 90 minutes long. So one lesson, 90 minutes long, and you would do 2 or even sometimes 3 lessons a week. So basically in 1 week, you would do as much learning as you would do in the whole 6 weeks that the study was going on. It's structured, so this has been developed over many years and researched to make sure that it works. Whereas here, they could just choose any commercial activity that's out there and just play. It's also based on learning principles. If you want to know what, go back to our first session that I'll show you later on in our Think Smart series. We went through all the principles there, and it's integrated. So whereas this one only focused on cognitive skills, an evidence-based program would do application as well. So you would do the cognitive development, and then you would do an element that applies that knowledge to curriculum tasks such as reading, spelling, comprehension, and mathematics. And then only can you expect to see the differences. Whereas they had a single cognitive focus, an evidence program would be based on mutualism. So it would acknowledge that if you're going to develop those cognitive skills, you need to develop a set of cognitive skills because there's an interplay between them. So you're going to do multi-sensory work, you're going to combine various cognitive skills in one lesson. And then, whereas these were online only, again, a good program would not be computerized only. So you're going to maybe have a little bit of that, but you're also going to have hands-on tutor-led activities. Okay. So you can see the difference in thinking. So if you had a study on something like that, would you still just dismiss cognitive development as over-promising and under-delivering? Okay, so let's look at the meta-analysis by Kearns. So they analyzed 50 studies, which they considered, and I'm using the word considered, cognitive development. Now, here they included, and I'm going to just use one section. They have different categories. I can't use all of them, so I'm going to just look at the one category, the one for visual processing. And here they included interventions such as color reading overlays, which is a strategy. It's not cognitive development. It's a strategy that might or might not help a learner to see words clearer, but it does not develop your cognitive skills. Then they have these occluded lenses. Basically what it means, occluded lenses, is that they have found that dyslexic learners often struggled to see clearly. What they try to do is they would patch up the left eye so that they can only see out of their right eye. So they basically delete one eye. Now again, that's a strategy to see maybe if we just look through the one eye, can we see clearer? It is not a development of any cognitive skills. And then they use eye tracking devices, like for example, even like a reading ruler. So, but again, that's a strategy. It does not develop any cognitive skills. So they included a lot of these activities that really are nothing to do with cognitive skills. And then they concluded that the cognitive development doesn't work, and that it just really doesn't make sense to even pursue the field of cognitive development. So these two studies were key in dismissing development of cognitive training, and neither of the studies really debunked true cognitive training. All they did was they misunderstood or misrepresented it. So what happened is that most companies that may have considered developing cognitive training programs didn't do it. It was dead. And it's a real shame. Okay, so my closing thought is, with the Delphi study defining dyslexia as a set of processing difficulties and then identifying cognitive deficits as the root, isn't it time to really put cognitive development back in the frame? For researchers, for people to consider that we really need to look at how to address all the different elements of dyslexia. And maybe we should then go and prioritize development over compensation, say that if it's possible for all learners to overcome or many of the symptoms of dyslexia and become functionally literate, that maybe that's some time that we do that. Okay, so I just want to play you a short video, and this is of an Edublox client in America, so it's not a South African base, but just listen to her story.
My son says that he wished he found Edublox sooner, and I never thought we'd say something like that for an educational program. My son Cristiano was the first child that I'd ever homeschooled. When we started to learn to read, it seemed a little bit slow. We started to notice over time there's increasing frustration. He would get so frustrated that he would throw his books.
I remember saying that I would never read a book again.
We ended up getting him a neuropsych evaluation, and they told us that he had severe dyslexia. They basically told us that he's not really going to make over. They said they don't do tutors. It's not going to help. You're throwing your money in the garbage. I kind of just accepted that for like a month or so, and then I started doing some reading online, and I happened to stumble across Edublox. And then we had met with Susan. She was not concerned at all, and that was a different take from what we've been hearing. She's like, oh yeah, we'll learn how to read, no problem. So to find something like Edublox that actually worked in a relatively short period of time. I mean, 6 months sounds like a long time, but when you've been doing this for 6 years and it's been an immense struggle, that is, it's mind-blowing. It's just, I can't describe how impactful it has been for us. That Edublox has helped him so much, and we're just very, very grateful and thankful for how it has helped him. You know, you hope, you always hope, right? You hope that something's going to get better. You hope that, you know, your kid can get help. But, you know, until you actually see it, it's like hard to believe because you already did so much yourself to try to help your child, and everyone else says that it's not going to work. He's starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. He was a little bit resistant at first when we first started, and I kind of expected that, but over time he's starting to see the changes, and he is starting to get more encouraged by that and have a little bit more confidence in what he's able to do. But prior to that, yeah, there was a lot of frustration from him, and there was a lot of conflict at home between him and I, or my husband and him.
When we started Edublox, I didn't believe it at first, but now it's helped me, and I like reading so much. Like in my spare time, I pick up this book called Dog Man, and I read for like an hour to half an hour, and it's really helped me.
I mean, it's not full time when we talk about it. He talks about how much Edublox has impacted him, how much it's helped him.
I can do more stuff on my own than I could when we weren't doing Edublox. and it makes learning more enjoyable. If you don't like reading, definitely try Edublox because it'll change your life.
Okay, guys, what I'm trying to do is not to buy you into Edublox, but buy you into the concept of cognitive training and help us spread the word and get people to start thinking about it. Break down those myths that Edublox, that dyslexia is just about literacy. And that the only way to help it is by developing your phonics skills, because it's just not true. Give that hope to the families and learners across South Africa, because the more people we can help, the better, of course, because we're changing lives. So October is International Dyslexia Month, and we at Edublox is trying to do that. We're trying to raise awareness. We've got a main sponsor, a Drive, who is giving us some prizes for competitions, which we'll look at the next page. But also we've done some reels about dyslexia facts and myths, and done some interviews that we're going to play for people to see the myths and to basically demystify them. And then we also have, of course, our strategic partners, which is Twinkle itself, and then the Lynette Beer Group, and we did some Opibunk interviews. This is Afrikaans, so there's a view that are Afrikaans. You can go and view that on her site. And then we're also putting together a digital dyslexia resource booklet with some expert tips and videos and articles, which Edublox and Twinkle and Drive and the Lynette Beer Group will be distributing. So together we're trying to get the word out that dyslexia is about more than just literacy, and that we can have brighter futures if we think wider. Okay. So I just wanted to show you this one. This is one of the Opibunk conversations with the Lynette Beer. And this is a learner that is showing the longevity. I think one of the criticisms of cognitive training is that the result is only short term. And then the learners just fall back and they struggle again. And this young lady did a conversation with Lynette Beer, Sansha from Yun. She was diagnosed as dyslexic, and she was told by her teacher that she would never achieve anything, and that she would never be able to go to university. She did Edublox for 3/4 years, and she did cognitive development as well as together the application and reading and spelling development. And after her global IQ increased by 14 points, and in matric she was in the top 20 in her school, with no concessions, no academic accommodations, just working independently like any other learner. And she went on, and she said that in the interview that she went on now to study teaching because she wants to give hope to learners, and she wants to tell them and tell other teachers that there are hope, and want to be the opposite from the teacher that she had. And so she's a second-year student in teaching, and last year in 2024 she passed her first year with a 71.7% average, which I think for someone that's been told they will never be able to do it, I think she's proven them wrong. So if you're interested, there's some competitions going on in Dyslexia Month. So you've got the Page to Performance, which is the individual one, where learners can submit a 1-minute dramatic reading video. The entries must be tagged to the Edublox pages, so your local Edublox or the national Edublox, and there's weekly 500 Rand book voucher prizes. And then the Read Together, Shine Together, which is a group reading. I don't know if you've seen this hype with getting big groups to read, and we're going to do that as well. So try and get the biggest group reading event in South Africa or Namibia, and submit your group reading video, which is 1 to 2 minutes, with your group's details about the group size, the date and the location, and try to be creative, think of fun locations and signs and themes, and then Drive is sponsoring some prizes for first, second, and third place. Post your videos on social media. I think the information has been sent to schools, but if your school hasn't received it, then you're also welcome to let them know about it. Okay, so, and as normal, if you have learners and if you're more interested to go and see what the cognitive assessment might look like, this is a free online screening tool where you can register learners, or register yourself even, and go and test it and see what it looks like. Carl will also distribute the link. Okay, and then if there's any questions.